Wicked is as darkness, they know not at what they stumble. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes, keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil. As we come here this morning to this portion of Scripture, a lot of people will use the front part of this chapter, chapter number 4, around Father's Day, on hear ye children the instruction of the Father. So a lot of times people focus on the front part of this chapter, but the back half of this chapter gives us insight to something else. So we heard this morning, on pick a side. Well, for the next little bit, let's talk about pick a path. So once you pick a side, then you're going to have to pick a path that you're going to go. So as we get here into this chapter, starting with verse number 14 down through verse number 17, and then in verse number 19, we see there's a different path that is loaded there than the path we just talked about. So in verse number 14 down through verse number 17, here, the wisdom that is given to us is enter not into the path of the wicked, nor and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. And then in verse number 19, we hear this. The way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at all at what they stumble. So there's a path laid out in verse number 14 through verse number 17, and then discussed here in verse number 19. And then in verse number 18 down through verse number 27, there's another path that's laid out. So there's two paths that's laid out here in the book of Proverbs. There's the path of the wicked, and there's the path of the righteous. And guess what? We pick that path. We make the choice, and we make the decision on which one we're going to follow, and we make the choice and the decision on which one that we're going to do. So we were instructed this morning to pick a side. So I hope you pick the right side. So now that you picked the right side, let's pick the right path. We don't want to follow what verse number 14 down through verse number 17 talks about, because these are not good steps, and these are not good choices. And here is the warning that we find. Don't enter into the path of the wicked. Don't follow that path, and don't follow that way in verse number 14. And then in verse number 18, we see this, the right path that we want to pick and the right path that we want to follow. But the path of the just is as the shining light. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm to the point now where I like illumination. I like things to be lit up, and I like to be able to see, and I like to be able to do things in ways that I can see a little bit, and see a little bit better than what I'm able to see now. I was working on something Friday night, and I'm learning this. I need more light, and I need stronger glasses sometimes to be able to see what I'm working on and what I'm doing, because I'm to the point now that just by these eyes I can't tell the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead screw anymore. I need some help with that. I need something that illuminates that and shows me which one it is. And the older I get, the worse that gets. And we see here that there's two paths. One of them is dark. Verse number 19. The way of the wicked is as darkness. It's a dark path. And here, we see they don't even know what they're stumbling at. They don't know what's causing them to fall, and they don't even know what's causing them to fail. But in verse number 18, we see the path of the righteous and the path of the just is as the shining light. That it's open, that it's free, and we're able to see which direction that we're going. And I found this in life. There are a lot of people out there that they're just wandering, and they don't even know where they're going. They don't even know what's going on. They're just going through the motions, and they're just going through life, and they're not really aware of how far off the path that they've got, and how far away from God that they've got. And we see here there are two paths that are laid out here. There's the path of the wicked, there's the path of the just, and we want to make sure that we're picking the right path, and we want to make sure that we're going in the right way and in the right direction. So kind of following up on pick your side, then let's pick our path, and let's talk about the good path this morning. Let's talk about the path that we want to pick. There's 7 things that I want you to notice here in verse number 18 down through verse number 27 on picking the right path and having the right path and the right way. The first thing I want you to notice is the actual path itself. He says, but the path of the just, in verse number 18, is as the shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. So when it comes to picking a path, we want to make sure that we're on the right path. And here, we find out in verse number 18, this is the path that we want to be on. It's the path of the just. It's the path that's not dark. It's the path that is well lit. It shines more and more unto the perfect day. And here's what I found. I don't get deeper into confusion. Now, my mind fails me a little bit more, and my memory fails me a little bit more as time goes on. But I promise you this, the longer that I live for God, the more I realize how right it is. I don't question it. I'm not curious about it. The more I live for Him and the more I follow the right path, the more I'm able to see this, and the more that I'm able to know that we're doing the right thing. And I don't even question this morning. Was it the right thing to come to church today? Absolutely. I don't even question that. I don't even think about that. I don't even wonder about that. I don't even have any thoughts about that. And he tells us here the path of the just, the right path here, is as the shining light. It shines more and more unto the perfect day. It's something that we need to follow, because we know this: God's path defines clarity and not confusion. You know what the devil would like you to be today? Confused. He would like for you to be confused. And I've mentioned this before. We trace this mindset all the way back to the Garden of Eden when the serpent asked Eve, now is that really what God said? It goes all the way back to there. And what was he trying to do? He didn't tell Eve to eat any of the fruit. He didn't tell Eve that you need to ignore the instructions. He just put some confusion in Eve's mind just a little bit. And here's what I found, that sometimes if I'm not careful, I can get easily confused. If I'm on the wrong path, I'm stumbling in the darkness. But if I'm on the right path that's illuminated, that shines more and more, we know this, that God's path provides clarity. It doesn't provide confusion. It provides direction. It provides hope, and it does that. And here's what we know this: God's path is righteous and not random. There are a lot of people out there that are random in their life. They don't have consistency, and they don't have a good flow in their life. And we'll see that here in these later verses. But God's path provides righteousness, not randomness. It provides clarity and not confusion. It provides something else here. It provides really good growth. He says this shines more and more unto the perfect day. And here's what I found in life. In following the right path, it don't get worse, it only gets better. My life is better today than it was 20 years ago. And God doesn't desire for us to be going backwards or going in the wrong direction or stumbling around. But here's what I found. When I try to go my own way and I try to choose my own path, guess what happens sometimes? It gets real hard. And I run in the ditch. And I run over something. And I get flat tires. And all kinds of bad things go on when I'm going in the wrong direction. And I'm not following the path that I want to or need to be following. And here we notice this. When it comes to picking the path, the first thing that we see here is the right path to pick. Not only do we see the path, but we also see the pace here in verse number 19 and verse number 20. The way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at what they stumble. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. And here's what the advice is from Solomon in this. Don't rush and don't get in a hurry. Wait for the instructions before you follow, and wait for the instructions before you move. Now, there are plenty of things in life that we may purchase, and some of us males in the room may have this problem. We don't think we need the instructions, right? Those are just suggestions. Those are things that, this is an option. This is a way that we can do it. This is something that, we can follow this, or we shouldn't follow this. And guess what happens? When we try to get in too big a rush and we try to get in too big a hurry, guess what happens? We make a mess of everything. Now, yesterday I'd bought some things, and I'd seen this little ad, and I thought it was a great idea. It's chain holders for your trailer. So you put this little thing on it, and you can hang your chains on it so the chains ain't on the ground. And the plug can go into this little holder. And that way, it's not, whenever I go to hook one of my trailers up, I got to clean the plug off because it's laid on the ground. It's got dirt and mud and everything in it. Well, they make this thing that you just stick it on there. So I bought one for each trailer that we had. I bought one for the little utility trailer. I bought one for the little car hauler, and I bought one for the camper. Put them all three on yesterday. None of them have 4 identical nuts and bolts in it. None of them. Started with the first one. All of them have 3 of the same thing. All of them have 1 of something different that I had to go to the garage and find. You know why? Because I got in a hurry. And the little old itty bitty nuts that was on that thing was so tall, or so small and so minuscule. Somewhere in our driveway, there's 3 of them. If you want to come find them, you're more than welcome to come find them. They're somewhere. And I don't know how you drop something, within a 1 foot perimeter, and you can't find it. And all that happened because I was rushing. You know what? It was getting ready to start raining, and it was drizzling, and I was in a hurry, and I was moving faster than I should have. And guess what happened? I dropped that little itty bitty nut, and taking 4 seconds to be patient and take my time could have saved me 5 minutes, and then having to go find something else, because then I had to go find a replacement, and then put all that together. And if you have a nice random nut, screw, and bolt collection, sometimes it's hard to find the right nut for the right bolt, and it takes time. We get into a hurry and we get into a rush. And here's what Solomon is saying: my son, attend to my words. Listen, pay attention. Follow the instructions. Incline thine ear unto my sayings. Notice what's being said, and follow that. Keep the right pace. Don't get in a hurry, and don't get distracted, and don't get sidetracked. But make sure that you're having careful hearing. Make sure that you're having a conscious holding. Make sure that you're having a consistent habit. Make sure that you're following all these things and keeping the right pace, and not getting into a hurry. There's a path. There's a pace, and not only that, there's something that needs to be protected as well. Look down in verse number 21 and verse number 22. He says, let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Now, notice what Solomon is saying here in verse number 20. He says, my son, attend to my words. Incline thine ear unto my sayings. But what does he say after that? Where should they not depart from? The eyes. Words and sayings we would think would be something that would be in our ears, right? But what does Solomon say right here? He says, attend to my words. Incline thine ear unto my sayings. Listen to what it is that I'm trying to tell you. But then he says this. He says, but don't let them depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart. Here's what Solomon is saying, that we hear these things, and here shows us the aspect of our Christian living. What do? We hear the Word of God, we read the Word of God, and we should retain the Word of God. That's what he says right here, right? He tells them, he says, attend to my words, listen unto my sayings. Don't let them depart from thine eyes. So in other words, the person that's being instructed here is to listen to what was said, but he's also to read those things and to follow those things. And we know this, that Solomon was a very wise man, and a lot of these things are probably written down. And we know that we have some of them here, with the book of Proverbs. We're blessed to have that. But he tells him here, son, this is what you need to do. You need to listen to them, but you also need to make sure you protect them. Don't let them depart from your eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart. Let me tell you the best way to not forget Bible verses. Read Bible verses. That's the best way. Do this. And this helps my retention. Write it down. Write them down as well. Read them, because here's what I'll do. I may forget something you say. I retain more things that I read, and I retain a lot more things that I write. Now, I wouldn't expect, we'll come back Wednesday night, and I wouldn't expect you to remember all of these points. Now, the note takers will, but I wouldn't expect you to do that. Why? Because you've only heard it. I should retain it better, because guess what? I'm reading it. And not only am I reading it, I'm the one. This is my chicken scratch writing right here. I know what this means, and sometimes there's add-ons and additions and amendments. This was only going to be 4, and then it becomes 5, and then it becomes 6, then it becomes 7, and I can follow it. You know why? Because I wrote it. I'd hate for Steve to have tried to taught this morning. I would have felt bad for him. Because he wouldn't understand the flow, and it wouldn't make any sense to him, and it barely makes any sense to y'all probably this morning. But I understand it a little bit better. Why? Because I'm the one that wrote it down, and I'm the one that's actually reading it. You're just the hearers of it right now. We see here, but there's a protection that is involved. He says, "Don't let it depart from thine eyes." My word, my instructions, my sayings, don't let it depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart. There's a benefit to that. For they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. And here, there's a protection. And what do? We're picking the right path, and we're trying to establish the right pace. And then this is what we got to do. We got to protect and make sure that we're doing the right things. He says, don't let it get away from your eyes. Keep it in the midst of thine heart. And here's what we can do. Don't get all upset sometimes if you can't specifically remember chapter and verse, because a lot of people get bothered by that. The best place to store the Word of God is not necessarily in your head, but store it in your heart. If you know what it means, if it has value to it. Because let me tell you this, an atheist can memorize Scripture. They can. What does it do for them, though? We can memorize Scripture, and we can be able to quote chapter and verse. But the most important thing is not what we stick in our head, but the most important thing is what we stick in our heart. He says, don't let it depart from your eyes. Keep it in the midst of thine heart. There's benefits to it. Their life unto those that find them. They're sustaining. Their health, and there's something that'll help, and there's something that'll keep you going. And sometimes, in life, when we get down and we get depressed and we get bothered, there's Scripture that'll come to our heart, and there's things that we'll recall, and there are things that'll bring us comfort, and there are things that'll bring us peace, and there are things that'll bring us joy. And it's not because of what we've stuck in our head and numbers and statistics and all those kind of things. But that joy and that peace comes from what we've put in our heart, and we need to guard that, and we need to protect that, and we need to make sure that we're watching after that and making sure that we're not letting this go. He tells them here, don't let it depart from your eyes. Keep them locked away in the midst of thy heart. And when we do that, this is what's going to happen. They bring life. They bring health. They bring joy. They bring peace, and they provide it to us when we keep it there. Not only are we to protect, but we're also to produce. Look what verse number 23 says. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Now, sometimes in life we make decisions with our head. And sometimes in life, and I'm not telling you you shouldn't research and think through things and do stuff like that. I'm not telling you shouldn't do that at all. But notice Solomon's advice here. He says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. There are times, there are things that may not make sense in our head, but we know in our heart it's the right thing. There are times that, things aren't logical and planned out, the way that we think it should go with logic and reasoning. And I've used this example before with Gideon. Gideon is told, hey, you're going to go fight this mighty army. And they're big, and they're strong, and they're powerful, and they're skilled. And you've got too many people. Military strategy says, hey, the more soldiers you have to fight, the better off that you are. God's strategy was to Gideon, hey, you need to get the right men and you need to get the right soldiers, and you don't need to increase the force. You need to reduce the force. You need to get it smaller. Now, in military sense, that didn't make any much sense. And guess what? Gideon struggled with that for a little bit too. He didn't understand it. But there are times that, things may not be logical in the sense of how the world looks at it, but we shouldn't look at it through a logical lens, and we shouldn't look at it through, those kind of things. We should look at it through the heart and not through our eyes. And we see here that we're to make sure that we do this. Those things are bringing us health, and those things that are bringing us prosperity, and those things that are bringing us good, there should be some good production from that. And he tells them here to keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Don't let your head guide you. Let your heart guide you. Because here's what God will do. God doesn't speak to our head. God speaks to our heart. God doesn't speak, in intellectual forms and intellectual ways and those kind of things. And we should be grateful for that. God's plan of salvation isn't hard to understand. And I think we would all here today agree to this, that God's plan of salvation is the most miraculous thing that has ever been given to mankind. And it's easy to understand. We bought, or Vicki bought some lights at Costco that go under the cabinets, and we fooled with them for half an hour yesterday, and I still don't know if we got it right. I'm still not sure. And it's just a light. Now they're great if we can figure out how to make them work, I guess. But we ended up getting frustrated with it. And that's a little cheap Amazon or Costco thing that probably some 12-year-old Chinese girl made, and it shouldn't be that complicated. And I can't understand. The greatest benefit to mankind is God's plan of salvation, and it's simple. I'm glad he didn't make it complex. I'm glad that he didn't make it difficult to understand. I'm glad that he didn't make it difficult to follow. I'm glad that he made it simple so that a child could understand it. I'm glad that he made it in the way that he made it. And we know it's for this reason. Keep thy heart with all diligence. God, when it comes for time for somebody to be saved, God doesn't deal with their head. He deals with their heart. And we got to keep that heart with all diligence. When we get on that path, we got to make sure that, we're producing the right things, and we're protecting the right things, and we're looking after the right things, and we're following the right things. And we got to make sure that we're producing and doing the right things, and the output is exactly what it needs to be. He tells us here that we're to keep our heart with all diligence. Everything about our life stems out of the heart. And he tells them here that they need to be making sure that they're producing the right things. We need to guard the heart. We need to guide our mouth. We need to govern our conduct. We need to make sure that we're following all those things. And then in verse number 24 and verse number 25, there are things that we also preserve. Look what he says. Put away from thee a froward mouth. and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. There's some things we have to preserve. He says, to put away from thee a froward mouth and perverse lips. What we say matters. It matters to the person that you're talking to. It matters to the crowd that may be around listening. It matters to the Spirit of God that you're carrying around with you. It matters to the God of heaven. You say, how do we know that? Because we know that at the final judgment, the books are going to be opened. Our lives are recorded. What we're saying and what we're doing and how we're behaving is very important, and it absolutely matters. And he tells us here that we put away from ourselves a froward mouth and perverse lips. And what do? What's his instruction here? That we put it where? Far away from us. Now, I found this in life. Now, there's certain things that I like a lot. There are certain things that I enjoy. I enjoy Moose Tracks ice cream. Now, this is what I would do. If at 10 o'clock tonight, I got a hankering for Moose Tracks ice cream, and there's some in the freezer, I'm liable to have a bowl, right? If Vicky will get up and get it for me, I'm really likely to have a bowl. But if it's at Food Line, probably not. I want it, right? I do. I want it. And if it's in the freezer, if it's in our freezer, I have a shot to do that. If it's at Food Line, probably not going to get in the car and go get it, right? If it's at Walmart, it has an even less shot, right? If it's at Dario and King, it has an even less shot. Because I want ice cream at 10 o'clock at night, but I'm not willing to put pants on to go get it, right? That's going way too far. I'm more likely to get it if it's convenient, if it's easy, if I can get to it close. I like peanuts in the shell. If they're in our cabinet, I might have a few. If they're at Rural King, chances are I probably won't. It diminishes. You say, what's that got to do with anything? Notice what Solomon says here. Put away from thee a froward mouth and pervert lips. But notice what he says. Put far from thee. When it comes to our old habits, the more inconvenient and the further away we put it, the less likely we're to pick it back up. The closer it is to us, and the more natural it is, and the easier that it is, the more likely that we're to do that. Now, you know, in Brother Steve's example this morning, sometimes it's easy to hear people say things that they shouldn't say, and if we don't say anything about it, and guess what happens? The next time they say it, and the next time they say it, and the next time they say it, about the 10th time they say it, you know what? It don't bother us like it used to. It's becoming more convenient and easy to just, you know, let it happen and to let it go. And Solomon says here, he tells them, here's what you need to be doing. You need to put those things far from you. Let your eyes, in verse 25, let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. He said, put all of that away and make it to where it's inconvenient, and make it to where it's hard, and keep your eyes, focused in the right direction, and keep your eyes focused in the right way. Put away from you the wrong words, and put away from you the wrong, lips, and put away from you, the perverse things that people say. Put it far away from you, and when we do that, then our eyes will be looking in the right direction. Let our eyelids be looking straight before thee, not looking back, and not looking sideways, and not looking what else is going on. And here's what I found. The more I focus right, the less distracted I get. Now, there's a young lady that works for me, and she says her biggest problem is she has squirrel brain. And if you've ever seen a squirrel, if you're driving up a road and a squirrel's in the middle of the road, he thinks about which direction he's going to go about 417 times in 1 second, right? He don't know if he's going to go left. He don't know if he's going to go right. He don't know if he's going to go forward. He don't know if he wants to go backwards. He's going to jump around a little bit, and he's going to dart, and he's going to wiggle, and he's going to move, and the next thing you know, him dead. Right? What caused him to die? Has anybody ever run over a squirrel? Did you want to? Did you try? Did you say, there's this long-tailed fuzzy rat in the middle of the road, and I'm going to run over it? That's not what we said. Right? But I don't know about you, I see dead squirrels in the road all the time. And I doubt anybody has maybe, some crazy people, one or two, I don't know. But for the most part, it's not our intention to run over the squirrel. What caused the squirrel to get run over? It wasn't the speed that you was going. It wasn't that you wasn't paying attention. It's because he couldn't make up his mind and got in the wrong path. And squish, him dead. Here we see, we put all this away from us. We don't get distracted. We're looking forward. Our eyelids are looking straight. Not only do we see, that we're to preserve that, but we also see our progression in verse number 26. He says, ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. We ponder, we think about it, we plant, we make sure that our ways are established, we pursue and we perfect, and we make sure that we're following all of this. We ponder the path of thy feet. We don't just walk aimless. We don't just, wandering like we're just walking out in the woods and not looking for something. He says that we ponder that. We make sure that we're following the right thing. We make sure that we're making the right decisions, and we make sure that we're having cognizant thought about that. He says, we're going to ponder the path of our feet. We're going to let all thy ways be established. We're going to make sure that we plant in the right direction, and we're going in the right way. And here's what we should be doing. We should be progressing. Every day we should be a better Christian than we were the day before. Every day we should be, that doesn't mean that you're not going to make mistakes, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to fall down, but every day there should be some progress made, and every day there should be something that you're trying to accomplish, and you're trying to grow, and you're trying to get a little bit better. There should be some progression that is made. But there's a lot of people out there, guess what they're doing? They're just not going anywhere. They've not picked a path. They've not said, this is the direction that I want to go. These are the things that I'm going to follow. These are the things that I'm going to do. There's no progression. And guess what happens when you're the squirrel in the middle of the road? You're going to get run over. And there's a lot of people out there that aren't making any progression. They're just running around aimless, and they're just wandering around. And like I said, God's path is not one that has no direction. It has direction. It has clarity. It's not something that gives us delusions or anything like that. And here Solomon says to do this. We think about the path of our feet. We make sure that our ways are established. We make sure that nothing's going to knock us off the road and nothing's going to push us to the side or anything like that. We're making sure that we're making some progression. And then lastly, here in verse number 27, we see there's a perseverance. He says, turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil. In other words, Solomon is saying this. What's the right way? Straight. What's the right way? Don't turn to the right hand, nor turn to the left hand, but make sure you remove thy foot from evil. Because when we're not, when we're not focused and going straight, and we're wanting to turn, a lot of times you turn the wrong way. A few years back, I got to go on a work trip, and we went to Atlanta, and we got to drive Porsches. One of the most fun experiences I've ever had. And, we got to do lots of little different activities and lots of different things. And the electric Porsche, that thing it's crazy fast. You know how fast that thing is going. I think I scared the instructor the second time. But one of the things that we did is they had a water track that was flooding water into it. It had a kick plate. And you would be driving along, and they were trying to spin you out. And you'd be driving along, and you're driving straight, and the kick plate would come up, and it would throw you left or it would throw you right. And the object was you had to save it, not spin out. You had to be able to save it. So I'm like the fourth or fifth person in line. I think I was the fourth person in line. And I'm watching everybody in front of me, right? Goes down, kick plate comes up, throws them to the left. Second person goes down, kick plate comes up, throws them to the left. Third person goes down, kick plate comes up, throws them to the left. So guess what I'm ready for? I'm ready. They all spin out, right? And you're only running like 30 miles an hour, but when you have no traction, 30 miles an hour is fast. I'm ready. I'm prepared. I know about where the kick plate is at. It's all covered in water, but I know about where it's at, and I'm prepped. My hands are on the wheel, and as soon as I feel the slightest bit of pressure, I'm ready to save that thing. Kicks me to the right. So guess what I do? I spin out. And I spun out in a grand and glorious fashion. Now the second time, and the instructor, they call them coaches. The instructor gave me some advice. She's like, well, the next run, she's like, don't anticipate anything. Just react to what happens. I was like, well, I had a 50-50 shot of getting it right. She's like, well, you spun out 100% off. The next time, I didn't anticipate what was going to happen. I just reacted to what was happening. So you know what I didn't do? I didn't turn to the right. I didn't turn to the left. I let the right thing guide me. I said that to say this. If we're on the right path, God will give you the right direction. You don't have to turn left or right. He'll tell us, and He'll show us. And let the Spirit of God dictate that and drive us. Don't say, well, this is what I need to do, and this is the direction that I need to take. And I firmly believe this. A lot of people have messed up their lives because they just didn't follow God's direction. They got themselves in a bad shape. They got themselves in a bad way. They expected something to happen and something else happened. They had this belief that this was the right path and when it wasn't the right path. And Solomon here lays this out very plain. He says there's two paths. There's the path of the wicked. There's the path of the righteous. You got to pick your path. And once you pick that path, you need to make sure you stay on that path. Once you're on the path of the righteous, once you're on the path of the just, we gotta stay that path, and we gotta make sure that we're continuing on that path. Because guess what? There are other people on the other path, and they're saying, "Come over here to this side." Pick our path. Stay on our path. Let God guide us, and I promise you, we'll end up in much, much better shape. Let's have our heads bowed, our eyes closed for just a moment this morning. Miss Bailey would come and play softly for just a minute. We've heard today two very distinct things. We've got to pick our side. We've got to pick our path. I think it's very important to understand what side you're on. I think it's very important to understand where you stand with God. I think that's very important. And I think without any doubt, we need to make sure we're on the right side. Once we've done that, we need to make sure we're on the right path. We need to make sure that, we're on a path that is consistent and not confusing. We have to make sure that we have a path that, provides direction, not distractions. We need to make sure that we're guarding it and taking care of it. Because the final destination is very important. I can leave here right now, and I can pick all kinds of ways to go home. There's one that's better. If I so choose, I could leave here today and I could go home through West Virginia. I could make a detour and go through Pennsylvania. I can get on 77 South and go through South Carolina. But there's only one path that's right. And we got to pick it. Simple question today. Have you picked a side? Have you picked a path? If you're going in a direction you don't feel like's right, this altar is open for you for the next few minutes. Come and ask God, God, please help me. Make sure I'm on the right side. Make sure I'm on the right path. Say, man, I feel that sufficient this morning. We certainly appreciate you coming out, being in the service with us today. So it is Fourth Sunday, so we'll get a couple ushers to come, and we'll take up our building fund this morning.